Hey everybody. This is not a video review, but this is sort of a mini, I guess, a mini rant or a mini call out of Weta Workshop, and sort of an encapsulation of what their customer service has been like lately, and this story hoping to illustrate the problem that this company's been having lately. You know, and I'm hopeful that this will bring some attention to it, and then maybe other collectors will benefit from this, and maybe hopefully over time there could be some pressure to change the customer services of Weta. So Weta Workshop, in case you didn't know, they're the company that actually creates the special effects and practical effects for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. They're quite well known. They've done work on other movies, and so part of their notoriety, in a sense, is that they also are then able to say that the collectibles that they sell are really from the company that made the effects. So there's sort of this authenticity to them. Okay. I've always felt personally that their products have been a little bit overpriced for what they deliver, especially when you consider the ambition of some of the other companies that are out there. But when they partner with Sideshow for the Lord of the Rings collectibles, they kind of, to a very great extent, you can say that they were somewhat responsible for the renaissance of statue collecting back the turn of the millennium in the year 2001, when the Fellowship of the Ring was released. But as time has passed, I feel like maybe some of their better days have passed them by, although occasionally they do hit some home runs. But there's always, again, this kind of issue of whether they're overpriced a little bit for what they're delivering. And then there's these stories here which I'd like to kind of highlight. So I am a mini helm completionist. They sold these little tiny mini helms since the original days of 2001, over 21, going on 22 years ago, and I've collected all of them. I'll get into a review of some of these newer mini helms and talk about my issues with them a little bit later on. Suffice to say, in the beginning, the quality was off the charts. What made these little tiny mini helms so amazing was that they were actually cast out of real metal, and so there was a wonderful weight to them. They were really, really cool. They didn't have quite the same, I guess, the same fame as the 1/6 scale statues, for instance. But for those who collected them, they were really like a diamond, in the rough, so to speak, a hidden gem. Very, very good. And that line was completed around 37, give or take, mini helms and accessories, etc. And then Weta decided around the time of The Hobbit to reintroduce that line, and that was met with some excitement, because obviously there was some mini helms that were missed, and this excitement quickly turned into disgust when we found out that not only was the price going to be astronomically higher, but that they were now going to cast all these mini helms instead of out of metal, but they were going to cast out of so-called polystone. And this was even worse when we began to get these mini helms, and we found out that the so-called polystone was in fact felt like cheap plastic. It was like basically almost like vinyl. And this was very, very bad. But as somebody who had collected all of the mini helms, I wanted to continue with the line. So I was one of the few, I can't imagine many doing what I did. I was one of the few who sucked it up, and I continued to pay the ridiculous prices, close to $100 for now these mini helms that were now essentially, plastic. Okay. So that aside, I bought, because I buy every one of these mini helms are released, I bought the Helm of the Ring Wraith of Khand, which is a character from the Hobbit, right? So follow me on this. I get this box in the mail. I shrug. It's kind of sad because in a sense, I like these helms, but I never get too excited because again, they just feel so cheap, right? And so shoddy. But I'm like, fine, I bought it. It's almost like a job now. I got the mini helm. Here it is. Here's the number 119 out of 646. Normally, they make 750 of these. But I guess the so-called demand for these has been so low that a couple of them they basically just make to order now. So a lot of what Weta does now is they'll put something out for pre-order, and they'll keep it for like a month, and then they'll just make to order however many people decide to pre-order this. So obviously for this Ring Wraith of Khan, only 646 people in the pre-order window decided to go for it. So I get this, I open it up, and then imagine my surprise when I take it and the color box instead says this, Helm of the Ring Wraith of Herod. And when I first saw that, I was like, I don't want to use profanity on a YouTube video, but I was just like, you've got to be effing kidding me. Like, are you serious? Because obviously I already have the Ring Wraith of Herod. I bought it and that had come earlier, a month or so ago. So check it out again. Look, the brown shipper is the Helm of the Ring Wraith of Khan, but somehow I get the stupid color box of the Ring Wraith of Herod. So at this point, I'm already kind of upset. I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? So I take the color box out, and this is like literally, no joke, this is the color box of the Ring Wraith of Herod, okay? So I feel like, okay, great. They basically put the wrong mini helm into the brown shipper. So the Ring Wraith of Khan is supposed to be in here, but the people at the factory effed up and they put a Ring Wraith of Herod in there. So again, I wasn't too happy about this. So I open it up, and everything here is all Ring Wraith of Herod. They even have the special like behind the scenes of how they made the Ring Wraith of Herod, right? No, bear in mind, for me, none of this is new. I own this already, okay? Except, now this is, I don't get my Khan mini helm. I get this thing, a second version of Herod, of the Ring Wraith of Herod mini helm. So I put this aside. I take out, I take out the foam, and so I open it up, and of course, for better or for worse, here it is, the Ring Wraith of Herod. Now this, by the way, is actually a really cool design, right? If you want to go real close, and I'll do a review of this on the real one later, but this is like a really awesome mini helm because, again, their art design and the lore is that it's a ring wraith that's from the land of the Haradrim, right? Those are the army of evil men that you see in Return of the King that are riding those big elephants. So they're called the Haradrim, and so this is like a ring wraith from that land. And so it has like a helm that's sort of reminiscent of the Haradrim, but instead, of course, in distressed steel, right, and metal. So again, really cool, but this is plastic, okay? Which is kind of hard to convey, right? Because it's like when we do video reviews, all you see is the actual, right? You see the product, and to credit Weta, they have done a really, really good job with the casting and the painting to the point where like it definitely feels and gives you the illusion of a metallic mini helm, but in reality, when you touch it, it's just so darn cheap. But we will, I guess, come back to that controversy later about, does it really matter what it's made out of? If you don't even if you're just displaying it and you're just looking at it. And my feeling is yes, but again, we'll come back to that particular controversy in another separate video. So I'm looking at this thing, and then I get a second surprise. So I'm expecting everything here to be hot, the Herod, right? The color box, the behind the scenes booklet. We have the actual mini helm, but look at the base. This base, you look at the bottom, shockingly, is the helm of the Ring Wraith of Khan, edition number 119 of 646. So now I'm really just absolutely confused and also just kind of just pissed off in a sense. It's like they basically completely screwed this up. They somehow, put a a uh, a helm of the Ringwraith of Herod with the base of the Ringwraith of Khan in the color box of the Ringwraith of Herod in the brown shipper of the Ringwraith of Khan. You can't make this up. I mean, in literally what now? Over 20 years of collecting, I've never seen this type of like tomfoolery, right? This ridiculous situation. So, to make a long story short, I immediately take pictures of the relevant screw up, and I email Weta's customer service. And the minute I email, I get this like folksy Kiwi email response automated saying, "Oh, we're really busy right now. They're on the tail end of some bullshit like special sale where they're trying to get rid of stock of items of their overpriced junk that they couldn't basically fool people into buying, and so they just basically don't have the time to deal with it. So they warn you it's going to be like it's going to be a while. Okay, so obviously I'm stuck with something that I bought that's a complete fiasco. This is, in my opinion, like kind of worthless, right? Like, who the hell is going to buy this when everything's completely jumbled up? It's just, like you have the wrong base with the wrong mini helm with the wrong boxes. So this screwed up, and I don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, my hope is that they would do what any professional company would do, which is to simply replace, that they would replace their screw up, right? And but they're not doing it. And as I'm waiting, obviously my concern is that because they only made like 600 and change of these, what if they get sold out? And then I'm basically, up the river, so to speak, right? SOL. So I just wait. And finally, I get a response from Weta, a most unbelievable response. And basically, they say in the letter, "Oh, really sorry, we looked into it, and the factory just made a mistake, and because of blah 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 blah, COVID and problems, like we get all that. We heard all the stories about New Zealand and their excessive COVID like rules and all that, and how they couldn't leave the country. But whatever, at the end of the day, they screwed up. They didn't check. And then basically the email just was like, sorry, we can't replace it. We can't replace it. We don't have the stock. So too bad. We'll give you a refund, and it'll show up in like, I don't know, a week or two, and you can just keep your worthless stuff. So I'm out a Ringwraith of Khan. I get this, which is completely worthless because I already have one of these, and now this is just mixed up. And that's it. Like, literally, they're not going to make any attempt to make things right. It's just like a middle finger to you. And then a little like giggle, like, sorry, our mistake, our bad, it won't happen again. And so I sent this, angry reply, which obviously is ignored because what's that guy going to do? And I just said, I've been collecting this for 21 years. I have every single mini helm in the line from like the Fellowship of the Ring. I've bought all of your overpriced plastic crap because I, want to keep my collection complete. And you're not even going to do me the courtesy of replacing your screw up. Like, you made a horrible mistake, and your decision is we're not going to take responsibility, no accountability. We're not going to set it right at all. Too bad. So that really, incensed me. And I just want to go on record making this video to show you, number one, what a laughable, ridiculous quality control situation there is. All of it is about money, right, guys? It's like, if you pay money to the top factories and you pay money for the top quality inspectors, the Chinese factories will make things right, okay? Like, and you just tell the factories, if you make a mistake, you got to fix it, and the foreman or whoever's in charge of the factories are going to do that. Weta obviously is not paying for the best factories, because we all know where those are. We know Prime One, J&D, Custom, Ownage, Sideshow, XM. We know companies and custom, groups that are willing to pay for the top-notch factories that do the top-notch paint, molding, casting, inspection. And Weta, in my opinion, is cheaping out. They're not paying for, the best, just like First Four Figures is not paying for the best. And you get this, when was the last time you guys have heard of a company that literally does not make any percent extra in case of breakage? Like, what if this thing came broken, instead of this stupid mix-up? What if it came broken? Are you seriously telling me that Weta is not going to be able to replace anything because, excuse me, but they made exactly, 646 of these? They didn't make an extra, 1, 2, or even 60. Like standard, okay, industry standard is that you set aside 10% extra to replace for lost shipment, broken shipment, problematic stuff. That's industry standard. And so Weta is basically saying they didn't even have they didn't care enough about their customers or their own reputation to do that. They just didn't care, right? And I know I might be kind of like ranting in the void, but I know that this has probably happened to other products. I've already largely gone away from Weta. I spend maybe 5% of my collecting money or whatever on them because of just nonsense like this. But it's just so insulting for them to pull this, right? So this is the main focus, is like, that's what happened. They made a ridiculous error, a mistake so stupid and laughable. I've never seen anything like this in 20 plus years of collecting. Such a Bush League amateur hour mistake, let alone from Weta, collectibles, right? The company that made the effects for Lord of the Rings. Supposedly Richard Taylor is in charge of this. Does he know about this embarrassment? I mean, he should be embarrassed, ashamed of himself if he knew that this is what's going on and this is how his company under his name is treating people who've supported him for 20 years, that this is how they're going to treat their customers. So number one, I don't know if Richard Taylor knows how stupid the people under his employment that he's supposed to be taking responsibility for is running this company. So that's number one. And then number two, after this sort of Bush League mistake, for them to essentially just give up and not even try to make it right is also just disgusting, right? And so this is a company that it's like so essentially tragic in a way, because they're supposed to be upholding the legacy of the Lord of the Rings collectibles. You're supposed to be special to buy stuff from them. And instead, all we get is just this super overpriced stuff that just preys on like the ignorance and those rose-tinted glasses of collectors with more money than sense, right? And so that's what this company now stands for and what it's about. And it's just like so difficult to continue to buy stuff from them, which you can't get it from anywhere else because they are Weta, and yet it just leaves a real bad taste in my mouth to be forced to do that, So that's what it is right now. I had to basically buy another Ring Wraith of Khan literally off eBay, and on top of that, I tried to buy it from a company called Secret Compass, which is a U.S. company. And, I talked to the customer representative. Of course, she was horrified that this happened and, both horrified and amused. And she was like, yeah, don't worry. Before we ship yours out, we're definitely going to open it up and inspect it. And then guess what? Like a month later, Weta just arbitrarily canceled a shipment to Secret Compass. No explanation. And so Secret Compass did not get any of the stock that they were promised from Weta. And so my order from Secret Compass had to be canceled. And then, that begs the question, why did Weta do that? Are they in the business of not fulfilling their contracts or their obligations to, their distributors? Because it's not like Secret Compass, only bought one thing or something like that. They buy quite a few from Weta. They're one of Weta's distributors. Why would you cancel specifically the Ring Wraith of Khan? We know that there was something wrong, with the packaging and at the factory level. So I couldn't get that. And so at the end of all of that, I had to go on eBay. And I didn't trust buying this from China because there's all sorts of stupid recast and just all sorts of scams from China. So I wound up buying from a reputable, shop in Belgium of all places, and he actually personally inspected it, made sure it was the correct mini helm, everything was good, and I got shipped. And I finally over here got the actual real Ring Wraith of Khan mini helm. And that was like the end of the saga, when in reality, what Weta should have done is just like, hey, you know what? You either keep it or you send it back to us, but we're going to send you another Ring Wraith of Khan because we screwed up. We're going to make it right. And you're not even a good company, okay, if you do that. You're just like an average company. Weta isn't even average company, right? That they can't even do that. And then finally, I'll end with the biggest joke of all time, which is that on the Facebook Lord of the Rings collectors webpage, another guy, I don't know where he's from, whether he's in Europe or Australia, he's trying to sell, you're not going to believe this, he's trying to sell a Ring Wraith of Khan mini helm, right, with a base that's the Ring Wraith of Herod, a color box Ring Wraith of Khan, and a brown shipper Ring Wraith of Herod. So basically that guy is selling the other half of my crap, right? So he's selling the mirror image of my crap. Instead of the Herod mini helm, it's the Khan mini helm. Instead of the Herod base, it's the Khan. Instead of the Ring Wraith of Khan base, he has the Herod base. So essentially that's what that factory did, is they mixed everything up. And I think his number was like 104 or something. And the number here is 119. So obviously somewhere in the 100 batch, we don't know how many of those is screwed up, but quite a few. And so he's on Facebook. And so I basically, messaged him and I was like, hey, you have essentially my other half. If we just exchange the helms and the boxes, we would at least get the right setup, right? We would actually have the correct number and all of that. So we'll see what he says, whether he wants to switch it off or not. But whatever that says it may be. So I have basically a leftover piece, wrong number, but what are you going to do? So but at least if we switched it, we will still have the wrong number on the color box, because what are you going to do about that? According to this thing, well, yeah, I don't know. It might actually work out, right? Because the base is still the same as the brown shipper. So this all matches up, and these guys don't have numbers. So yeah, if we switched off, it would be perfect. We finally would have a matching set. So hopefully that guy will play ball. If he doesn't, I'm thinking about just buying it anyway, and then I'll just have essentially 2 sets and just sell the extra off. But getting distracted. Bottom line is, I've been meaning to make this video for a long time. I haven't had the time, but again, that was what happened when I was doing this. Just trying to complete the mini helm series, and just Weta's completely ridiculous mistake. And then the worse than the mistake, which hey, mistakes happen, things happen. The most shocking thing was that I never ever had a company essentially not make things right. This is, I'm not a rookie. Been doing this for 21 years. Custom, XM, Prime One, Sideshow, Queen Studios, you name it. I've been doing it, buying stuff over the years, decades. Never had a company just go, sorry, F you, middle finger, ever. That's frankly just embarrassing. Okay, please do better, Weta. Please do better, Mr. Richard Taylor. You're supposed to be in charge of this company. That's what that response was just unethical. Right? You give up the profit, sir. Your company is worth a lot of money. You give up that profit margin, and then you make things right. That is what you're supposed to do. Please be better. Until next time, take care.